Welcome to the 98% podcast, where we hear real stories from real people. And I'm here with Rob. Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, so my name is Rob. I am 26. I am a personal trainer in Kansas City, Missouri. I have a beautiful 24-year-old wife and an amazing, sweet 10-year-old daughter named Maeve. My passions are fitness. I love TV shows and movies. I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to TV shows and movies. I'm a good person to ask for recommendations. And just like anyone, I love good food.
Okay, fair. Okay. So what's funny is it's been, dude, how long has it been since we've actually seen each other? It's had to have been like 6 years?
Probably about 5 or 6, yeah, because last time I was working at Nike was before I joined the Army National Guard, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's so crazy. I don't know where the time goes. Nuts. Okay, so you said you're a movie buff. So what is your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, well, it's a favorite because it was like a childhood favorite for me, and the main character passed away. The Fast and the Furious movies. I love like the first 4 or 5. A lot of people, they do get worse as they go on to like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But the first 3 or 4 I thought were really good. Paul Walker was super cool. I remember being like 13 or something, 14 when he passed away. I just looked at my phone in the middle of the night and just saw like the news article that he passed away. And I was like a little heartbroken teenager because it was like my favorite actor at the time. But, Fast and the Furious for action, Matilda for nostalgia.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So first Fast and the Furious, so you liked it when it was actually about racing?
Yeah. When they were stealing like little box TVs out of the back of a semi, and they had like VCR players or whatever.
Dude, I love the first one. I remember watching the first one, and I just remember walking out of the theater and just being pumped. Like, I want to get a race car, I was just pumped. And then the second one I watched, and I was like, still pretty good. Tokyo Drift lost me because I was like, wait, where's the cast?
Yeah.
And then,
that's fair.
And then after that, I couldn't get into it anymore. That was just like my thing is like, I get it. Like, it's just supposed to be over the top and wild these days, but I'm just like, I don't know. But I haven't given the later ones a chance. So, there was the moment I saw them drive cars from one skyscraper to another where I was like, I don't know how I feel about this series anymore.
It's a bit extra. I don't know if, the later ones are worth giving it a go. But it's always fun to dip your toes in it,
That's true.
What it's like.
True. Yeah, no, for sure. And then Matilda, dude, I haven't seen that since I was a kid. Does it still hold up?
I'm gonna be honest. I haven't watched it much recently. I need to because my wife hasn't seen it. But I mean, just I don't know. I just remember the little girl and the parents that weren't good to her, and then she gets the little powers, and the kid eating the whole chocolate cake. Just the iconic scenes. Yeah, just that hits the heart. It hits home.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and then we'll go back a little bit. So, personal training. So is that like what you do? Like, is that like your full-time gig?
So I'm trying to make it my full-time gig. I got my certification back in November. Joined on a gym in the Northland. It's called Max Fit KC. And this is Kansas City, Missouri, of course, just for anyone. And Alex Leonard, who we used to work with at Nike, he also is a trainer there as well. So that's kind of how I found the gym. So I've been there teaching group training classes for about a month and a half now, and just trying to grow my clientele on the one-on-one side.
Nice. It's funny. I was going to ask that because I actually, Alex was on this podcast. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen a couple of his clips, man.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So he was on the podcast, and I remember seeing a few clips of you like posing or something. And then I was like, that looks just like Alex's gym. But I was like, I wonder if it is. And I was like, I was going to make it a point to ask you about it. Cause me and him went in there and we did a workout before we did our episode, which is kind of funny.
That's actually super cool. And I remember, back at Nike, I can't remember, but you would do what was like 100 push-ups or 200 push-ups a day. And I remember like you got me onto it too. And we would be doing push-ups in the break room.
Dude, I was always doing push-ups. What's crazy is I wasn't really working out besides doing those push-ups though.
You were always a pretty fit looking guy though.
Yeah, which is crazy. So, I mean, I was pretty active, but dude, I was a lot smaller than I am now though, which is funny because I just started taking my workout stuff serious over the past like 3 years and just hit it
Oh
in the
yeah,
gym. I committed 5 times a week at least. So I'm at least in the gym there. And I've only missed it in 3 years twice.
dude,
So, which is crazy. So once was
that's
because I was
awesome.
sick, and that was just a few weeks ago actually, which was like, dang it. And then the time before that was I think I just had a bunch of random stuff going on, like traveling and all that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
dude,
and it's crazy,
consistency compounds. That's awesome.
dude. It does that, and diet, nutrition's important. And yeah, dude, I went from like I think I was 165 pounds. I think when we hung out, I'm like I think I'm sitting at 195 right now.
Yeah, dude, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, which is crazy. So and it's a lean 195. I did get up to 210 last year, but it wasn't. I was like 16% body fat or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
goal is to. I was probably like 160 working back at Nike.
Yeah.
I'm at like 180, 185 now. I'm trying to get up to 200, but I hate eating, honestly. Like I love the way food tastes, but I hate eating.
Dude, yeah, I was eating so much, but it was good stuff. I was just eating a bunch of meat and just random stuff, but I wasn't counting my calories, and I just kept getting like, I just puffier is how I
Yeah,
felt. Like I'm 210, and I feel like I look okay, but then I'm like, but my face is kind of puffy. And then like, I look
yeah.
back at pictures now and I'm like, oh yeah, I actually wasn't as lean as I thought I was back then.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But that's awesome though. You've been super consistent, dude.
Yeah.
What made you get into like the gym and lifting weights, I guess?
But dude, my divorce.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it happened like,
Well, sorry
just
to hear about that.
sporadically.
I did not know.
No, it's okay. No, I don't mind talking about it. It's water under the bridge. It's been three
Yeah.
years, but yeah, dude, it came out of nowhere. And I just remember being like in such a crazy emotional, mental state where I was just like, I don't know what to do. But I promised myself during that time that I wasn't going to do anything stupid. So I was like, I'm not going to drink alcohol. I'm not going to do drugs. I'm not going to I wanted to be healthy. So, I did a lot of walking. And then just one day I just was like, I think I need to start going to the gym again. And I just remember showing up at the gym at Planet Fitness because it was cheap.
Yeah.
And dude, just started working out and just committed, 5 days a week or 5 times a week. And then did the same with eating too, and just started eating good. And it was crazy. So it's funny because it wasn't anything I was necessarily planning on. It was just I committed
Yeah.
to the system of like work out 5 days a week, eat this. I wasn't even tracking anything as far as my eating or anything, but I just kept like, 165, 170, 175, 180, 185. And it was lean because I was walking and stuff. And yeah, dude, it was just crazy. And I don't know what I would have done without lifting weights. So I always tell everybody, if you're going through tough times, no matter what it is, exercise. I'm telling you, that's the key to a lot of it.
That's huge, man. That's awesome. I'm glad that you found a good outlet, a good resource for you at that time.
Dude, me too. Me too. Okay. So how this works, Rob, I gave you the questions already. So we're going to go through those. And I guess the first one I always like to ask is, which we kind of maybe hit on it, but I don't know if the audience will get it, but how do you know me?
Oh yeah. So how I know you. So I said I was 20, I'm 26 now. Back when I was 18 or 19, I applied at a Nike outlet, and you were one of the managers there, but I don't think you were. What was your role exactly? You were kind of floating, right?
Well, it depends on when we met. So, because I was manager there at one point, and then I switched to the Econ role, which was the training position, which was going around and educating. I can't remember if it might have been in between both of
It
those. I don't
might
really
have been
remember.
in between, but yeah, so probably back in 2018, 2019, I started working at Nike and I met you, and dude, you're just an awesome person. And, we've, haven't stayed in like constant contact or anything, but we've stayed friends and mutuals on, socials. And, yeah, dude, I'm super, super excited about being here.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, Nike. It's funny because I remember like my moments with you were super fun. I just remember like always walking out to the floor. And if Rob was here, I was like, we're going to have some fun, whether it be doing something like athletic or
Yeah.
whatever we were doing. And you didn't have hair back there either. You got all this hair
Huh.
now.
Yeah.
You just went skin bald back in the
We're
day.
almost twinning right now.
Dude, I know. I noticed that. I was like, dude, we look like twins. This is good.
No, I just like to do like a no guard buzz cut all around, and just do the super easy, minimal.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, roll out of bed and save on shampoo. But my wife, she does hair, and we were married for about a year, and she was like, "Why don't you try growing out your hair?" And so I gave it a go, and she just loves it. So I keep it for her. Yeah.
That's sweet of you. That's so
Happy wife,
sweet.
happy life. Yeah. Yeah. I want to shave it though, man. I
Man.
do. I do shave it like once a year. Yeah. Once a year.
Yeah.
She's like, all right, go ahead. And so, yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, it's so crazy too because yeah, it's been so long that like yeah, when we met, it was just you, and now it's like you're married, you got a kid, and it's like
Dude,
wow, dude,
talking
you're
about
probably
time flying.
dude, you're probably a totally different person now. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, 2019 to 20-year-old Robert versus 26-year-old Rob, who, I like how I changed my name there, but, just the things I've gone through, like
yeah,
joining the military, going through all of that, experiencing something like physically and mentally hard. That
yeah.
was something that was really cool. And then, yeah, just being with someone and having a baby. Yeah, I've changed a lot. Definitely a lot. I'm still energetic and try to be
Yeah.
bubbly, Rob, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Dude, I get it. I'm the same way. Yeah, because my daughter is now she's 8 now, which is crazy.
Wow, dude,
Wild,
that
wild.
is.
Okay, cool. So we'll go to the first question. So I always like to start at the beginning. So like, what was growing up like for you?
Growing up for me, I mean, how much do you want to know? Like,
Dude, you can go as in depth as you want. I got all the time in the world.
yeah, so I was raised by my mom and my sister. My dad wasn't really in my life because him and my mom separated when I was like 3 or 4.
Okay.
He was abusive and alcoholic. Thankfully I don't remember much of that. But my mom got us out of there, so she raised my sister and myself. And we grew up on Section 8 and disability. But one thing I'm thankful for is my mom always made us feel extremely loved, even though we didn't have as many options to go to the movies or to the fair or like even buy books at the school book fair. My mom always made sure that at least I felt extremely loved. So that's one thing I'm extremely thankful for. But it definitely being 26 and looking back now, I can see how me being a male raised by just my mother and my sister, I feel like I'm more in touch with my feelings than some other guys that I know, at least around
Mhm.
my age. And I do feel like part of that is because I was just around that feminine energy so much. But, yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of freedom growing up. My mom didn't really push us hard to excel in school or to really push ourselves in general. She wanted to make sure that we passed our classes, and advance, but not necessarily like thriving or like flourishing in that aspect, which is okay. I'm very thankful for the lack. I mean, it's hard because I was going to say I'm thankful for the lack of stress that I didn't have growing up, even though it was stressful whenever I wanted to see my dad as a young boy and I wouldn't be able to see him just because he wasn't prioritizing me as his child.
Mhm.
So, gosh, I'm losing my train of thought, but basically what I'm getting at is I am losing my train of thought. Uh, Something about my mom. Basically, my mom never pushed us to really do well in school and try hard classes so that we get a scholarship or go to a nice college or anything like that. I feel like she was more of a backseat parent, which is okay because
Mhm.
I felt loved and that was important to me. But then there's other kids who had the stresses of like, oh, you got an A minus, why not an A plus? You know what I mean? Their parents, you could just like never please them. And I think back like 100 years ago and like 14-year-olds back then had so much more responsibility than 14-year-old Rob did.
Yeah.
So when I talk about my mom, this is where I was kind of going. When I talk about my mom not putting extra stress on us, I'm thankful in some ways, but I know in other ways that it's hard. It's like a double-edged sword, you know? Like I started paying rent when I got my first job at like 16 or 17. because we got less disability, because they knew I was working. At least that's what I was told. I don't know all the specifics of the government, but I'm thankful that I didn't have it more stressful than it was. Yeah, I don't know. I try to always see the positive side, like there's a lot I could dwell on about my childhood. Yeah, like my dad wasn't a great person. He would like run from child support. And I remember one time, this is like one wild memory I have, is my dad coming into a bedroom and telling me and my sister to like put blankets over him and then sit on the blankets. And then like, I can't remember if it was like a bounty hunter or SWAT came in and got him. But it's like, you put your kids in that situation. So
Yeah.
there's certain memories I have like that, but I use that as fuel to just not be like my parents, essentially. I want to not raise my children in a broken household. Or at least I want to be there in my children's life more than my father was, and just be a better parent. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my upbringing, just very lax, just not much, not many rules in place, which I was thankful for. I mean, but going back, I didn't want more rules, but yeah, it was a very free childhood, I would say.
Yeah. It's funny. I vibe a lot with that. So, not the whole story necessarily, but I think about, there's pros and cons to that, right? Because I was also raised pretty free and pretty like, hey, you kind of do what you want to do. We'll make sure that you feel safe and loved. Yeah. Otherwise, you can't do what you want to do. And it's good and bad, because for my personality type, I think it was great. But the thing is where it hurt me is that I didn't learn discipline. I didn't learn a lot of difficult things that you would have normally learned in those situations. And it's funny because my ex, she was the opposite. She lived in a household that was super, super strict and rigid, and she had zero freedom. And so like that, when we got married, there was like such an interesting dynamic of how we behaved. Like mine was more like go with the flow, just be chill and just have a fun time, be positive. And she was just always like stressed, just in the zone. Like every little detail needs to be lined out. We need to have everything planned, And it was just funny. And it's not like one is bad and one is good. It's just different, right? And now what I noticed is like, that's where our journeys are now. My journey has been over the last 3 years to get more disciplined. And I've had to learn that as an adult now, is like, hey, I have to start putting stuff in motion. Like I have to start working out 5 days a week. I need to start doing this. And then hers was opposite. She needed to learn how to let stuff go.
Wow.
And learn how to be a little more free and relaxed. And it's funny how, to that point, like, I don't think it's good or bad. It's just different, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is really interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then I wanted to go to another thing. So you mentioned your dad, obviously wasn't really around. When he wasn't necessarily a great person to be around. So what was that like for you as far as father figure goes? So I assume that you might have did you like latch onto father figures and stuff as you were growing up, or did you have a father figure?
That's a great question. Yeah. So not really much of a father figure growing up. I mean, my mom's brother, Uncle Barry, that's his name. And he's been a pastor all his life, and him and my aunt aren't able to have children. And he has always kind of loved me as one of his own sons. And so when I was probably, like 5 to 15, I really didn't have much of a father figure. I'd see my dad 1 to 3, 4 times a year. Not really much, maybe like Christmas and whatnot. Wouldn't get like a happy birthday call or anything. So as a kid, that hurts. But when I was like 9, I want to say probably like 9 or 10, my mom signed me and my sister up for the Big Brother, Big Sister program. Do you know what that is?
I've heard of it. I don't really remember though.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know, and just kind of like a refresher, what the Big Brother and Big Sister program was, what I experienced as a child was I basically had this big questionnaire that I answered to kind of get to know me. And then they paired me with another adult. I was probably 9. I think my big brother at the time, he was 26 roughly. His name was Will. He was working at Cerner. So he had a nice job and was single, and he wanted to give back. So we got paired up, and then I think it was like once a week or once every other week. He would come pick me up, and we'd go get food, go to his apartment and play pool, play video games. He took, my sister had a big sister, and then my big brother, they got together. We all went to a Chiefs game. So it was just kind of him being that big brother role for me, and then me having someone to just hang out with and have fun. That was really cool. I had that with him for maybe a year or two, and then he ended up moving to Chicago with his girlfriend. They're now married and live in Oregon, but we hadn't talked for maybe like 2 or 3 years, and I was 13, and he gave me a call and was like, "Hey man, I live in Chicago now. I'd love to fly you up here for like a 3-day weekend or something." And my mom was like, "Yeah, that's awesome." So he literally flew me up to Chicago for like a Martin Luther King weekend. So it was a 3-day weekend, and went up to the, I think it's like the Sears Tower now, something like that. We went up there, got to see from the windows and everything, and went to see the Bean, got some Chicago pizza, some Chicago style dogs. So got to ride on like the train and everything. So really got immersed in that because I hadn't really been out of like Kansas or Missouri. So he was kind of like a brotherly, fatherly figure that I had for a portion of my life. My mom had a boyfriend who was a fatherly figure for about a year or two. And then we learned that he just really, really was a bad guy. So then that kind of just went out the window. But when I was probably about 15, my Uncle Barry, he really started to give more time to me, whether it was because I was just maturing or I was at that point in life that he knew I could go kind of down one of two paths. And he wanted to be an influence on me to make sure that I was, going down the right path. So I had him, we would get together, my Uncle Barry and I, once every 3 months or so, get some coffee, lunch, and just chat about like how I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing in life, like how things are going at work, and then what I want to do. He was someone who told me after I graduated high school, like there's one of three things you need to do. You need to go to college, go to a trade school, or you need to join the military. So I didn't want to go to college. I tried that a little bit and just didn't like the atmosphere. It wasn't really my cup of tea for learning, essentially. So I'll put it that way. So I was like, okay, I'll join the military. So I joined the Army National Guard, and that was about 6 years ago. So yeah, my uncle was probably my uncle and my big brother Will were probably the biggest father figures I've ever had. I have an older half brother. He's my brother, but his name's Josh, and he, I think he lives in Indiana now, but he's in the Army. He's been active for about 18 or 19 years. So every 4 years, he's going to a different state.
Wow. Dude, well, that's awesome that you still had some really good people there for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you still in the military?
Yep. So I joined about 5.5 years ago the Missouri Army National Guard, and that's part-time. So I do drill for like 2 to 4 days every month. And then in the summer, I do 2 weeks of annual training. But I am coming up on my last 6 months, so I will be out in June of this year, and I'm excited.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Cool. Okay. So let's see. So you talked about kind of growing up when you were 15. Did you do anything like in school? Did you do any sports or anything like that as you were growing up?
Yeah. So when I was 14 years old, I was a freshman in high school, and can't remember why, but I decided to sign up for debate. So I took debate, and I had a buddy of mine who was in the class with me, and we did a form of debate called public forum, which is 2v2. So I did that my freshman year, and we did pretty good, nothing crazy. But I enjoyed it a lot. So I did it my sophomore year. And I think just as I was getting older, I just started to look at it as like a blow off class and didn't enjoy it as much. So stopped doing that my sophomore year. But, something I kind of forgot to mention, my big brother, Will, when I saw him in Chicago, there was one time that he was taking a big tub of protein out of his cabinet, and he was shaking up a shake. And I'm like, what's that? And he was spitting. He's like, oh, there's a protein shake. Like, I work out and this and that. So he was what kind of got me into fitness. And then I remember getting like 10-pound dumbbells and just doing that in my room. But that's what brings me on to when I was a freshman in high school, I took an introduction to weights class. And that's what you had to take before you go on to either sports and rec or advanced weights. So I took that my freshman year, and then sophomore, junior, and senior year, I took advanced weights just because I loved being in the weight room. It was just so much fun. So I did that. And then a little bit my junior year, I played 1 season of rugby, and I think it was my junior year, may have been my sophomore, but I played 1 season of rugby, and that was a lot of fun. But like I said, I was paying bills, so I was a little nervous about getting injured and not having to work and not being able to provide for the family as well. So I ended up not playing rugby my senior year. But yeah, I was in the weight room every year.
Also, I did the same thing, but mostly just because I didn't want to do other classes. So,
Yeah.
so I made sure I took gym. I made sure I took weights class, and
Yeah.
tried to
That
fill
was
it up
me
so I
my
could have some
senior
fun.
year.
That was me like every year. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So then, next question. So, what's the biggest struggle that you've made it through?
Probably about 3 years ago. I was newly married. I think me and my wife had been married for literally like a month or two. And I found out that my mom was doing some pretty hard drugs. And me and my sister were really upset because I don't know if you have ever found out that someone close to you was on some hard drugs. But once you figure that out, you're like, oh, that makes sense. That's why that happened. That's why they were paranoid that time. You know, that's why they're acting weird. That all makes sense. And she would babysit my nephew and niece, my sister's children. And who knows kind of like how often she was using, who knows how frequent it was. But the fact was that she was using it, and it was in the house, and that upset my sister, obviously. You know, she felt like her trust was broken. And then that upset me too, just because you could piece together the lies once you realize that someone was doing something like that. So, you know, the trust was broken with me too. And I am a little more frank with how I communicate sometimes. So I just kind of told my mom how it was, in that, like, I'm like, hey, I'm newly married. You know, like, if you want to be in me and my wife's lives, like, we need more honesty than this. You can't be doing these things. Like, I want to help you. You ask for help, you know? So I think kind of working through that was one of the hardest things, just because I didn't know what to do. I was like 23, and I've always had to kind of be the man of the house. Just because everyone's like, oh, you know, you live with your mom and your sister, take care of them. Like, as a young boy, that's what I always heard, just because my dad wasn't there. It's like, look after your mom and sister, take care of them. So being an adult, you know, I have to be the adult in the relationship when I communicate with my mother, which is unfortunate. So that was something that was extremely difficult for me to navigate, but thankfully I had my supportive wife with me, to kind of just be there for me and like know that she had my back and we were going to figure it out together. But yeah, that was pretty hard. That's probably the main thing, just because it was in my adult years. You know, everything else when I was a kid, it just seemed small. That was something that was rough.
I know that's tough. So, you know, and I'm very grateful that I didn't have to deal with that with my parents, but outside my family, like outside like my immediate family, there was drug use and abuse all over the place, you know. Like, I just remember certain cousins and people just like, you know, we go to family time and it was like they'd be off doing something hardcore. And I remember them even asking me, you know, like, hey, do you want to go? And I was just like, nah, I'm good, man. Thank you, though. That's always been my personality. So luckily I didn't fall into it, but I had plenty of times where I could have. But yeah, dude. So I could see, because luckily I didn't deal with them a ton, especially like in those days, which I've heard that they actually cleaned up their act, which is great, which is awesome. So, but yeah, I mean, I can imagine hearing a lot of those stories from, you know, from what they went through and stuff too. And just like, man, they were kids and just all this crazy stuff. So, man, and that's crazy. Still, to go back to one other thing is, you know, you mentioned being the man of the house, you know, as a kid, like that's a lot of responsibility for a child. So how did that, Yeah. How, I mean, maybe you didn't know then, but like, what is it looking back on?
Looking back, like how did that affect me, kind of, or
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if this was the main fuel to the fire, but I worry about everything. Like, I just overstress. If it's not one thing, it's the next. And my mind just like snowballs and avalanches down.
Mhm.
So I think because I was always told to look after my mom, look after my sister, make sure they're taken care of, I was worried about them. And my mom, she didn't have great health. There was one time I came home from school and she was just laying on the ground on her face. And I was like, Mom, Mom, Mom. And she just like, I fell. I'm okay. Like I had a mini heart attack as a kid. So then I
Yeah.
started going to school wondering, am I going to come home and is my mom going to be on the ground dead? So I was
Yeah.
literally and as a kid, I'm just worrying about stuff like that. So yeah, I think that kind of, I don't know, that's something I'm working on. Obvious, well, it's not obvious, but that's something I'm working on to be better because I know it doesn't help me, to kind of navigate those thoughts and feelings as they come in and to kind of control them. But yeah, I still worry and stress about just kind of everything.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's very understandable too. I mean, thinking about that is like, as a kid, that's kind of what you want to do as a parent is have them not worry, right? Like,
Yeah.
go be a kid, go have fun, go do what you need to do, right? So being able to do that, especially when your brain's not developed, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Is like, I mean, I don't know about you, but like thinking about a kid like doing adult responsibilities, that's stressful, right? Like, I couldn't even imagine. So yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Okay. So next question. So what is something that you're currently going through?
Something that I'm currently going through. I mean, I'll say I'll say two things. One, I have a 10-month-old daughter, so every day is just something new, just kind of
Mhm.
learning. It's not as, I don't have my hands as full as someone who has like a 6 year old who's like in school and they're talking and wants all this attention, like wants more attention because they have like more developed brain, but balancing, being a father and taking care of my daughter and then being a good husband as well. And then also trying to balance everything. That's something that it's an everyday battle just to learn and get better at. Um, so yeah, I mean, being, I want to be the best father I could be because I didn't really have
Yeah.
a great one. So,
Mhm.
I do what I can there. So that's something I'm navigating on a daily basis. And then the second thing is a year ago, I was working in insurance. So I had a nice, stable, like 40-hour week job making hourly plus commission. Um, but it just wasn't fulfilling for me. I was just selling and it got to the point where it was so hard to sell that it wasn't helping people anymore, because I was just trying to get a sale. So I ended up leaving insurance and trying something new with, working at a supplement store and just wasn't making enough money there. So I was always passionate about fitness and my wife was supportive enough you know, to hold down the fort at home and take care of finances for a few months while I worked on my certification, got it, found a gym. So right now, something I'm navigating is trying to get back to kind of stable with work and try and grow, my one-on-one with personal training. So that way I can really provide more for my family. Because my wife is awesome. There was a time where I was working full time and she was just going to school and I was kind of taking care of things. And that was when she was going to school to be a hairstylist. And, I just told her, I was like, I got your back. I got your back 100%. I support you because I've always wanted to be the supportive husband for her. And now she's like, hey, it's your turn. So I want to support you. I want you to rock out. I know this is your passion. I know this is something you're going to do great at. So navigating feelings as a grown man with a wife and a house and a daughter, and my wife's like, hey, I'm gonna take care of us for a little bit while you kind of get your business up and running and get your clientele up. That's kind of like an ego and a pride thing, so that's been rough. That's something I'm navigating with my feelings definitely daily.
That's awesome though that you have such a supportive wife though.
She really is the best.
Cool. Well, that is a big change. So with having like, I mean, current struggle, right? Or your current thing that you're going through, right? Being a dad. So 10 months, see, I thought 10 months and like 10 months to 2 years, I thought was way more challenging than when they got older.
Really?
So just FYI. So, um, well, one thing too is my daughter. So she also was a bad sleeper.
Yeah.
So for the whole first year and a half, she was alive. She woke up every 2 hours. So it's funny. I don't know how we did it, but somehow we still managed it. But it's crazy. Like, so that's kind of where we were. And then, she was always getting into stuff or whatever. And we had a fun time. Me and her were always playing and stuff. But the minute like she started going to school, I was like, dude, I have free time. Like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do. And then it's even been perpetuated more because we do 50-50 now.
Yeah.
And so there's weeks where I don't have her and I'm like, dude, what, like,
That's crazy. That's
it's
crazy
wild.
to think about. Yeah. And
It
makes
is.
sense.
It is.
It makes sense because when they're like 10 months old or under 2 years old, like they need you for everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So just saying it might actually get easier with time. Now,
Fingers crossed, man.
yeah. No, what I'm thinking about is like, what about when she's a teenager? So I know everybody's always like, you got a girl, like they're great. Wait till they're teenagers. And I'm like, oh, being a dad with a teenage daughter.
Yeah, man. I don't know how that's going to go because like my wife, her upbringing was so different from mine. She was raised in a very conservative Christian household where they were homeschooled. So they really just went to the grocery store and to church. And that's kind of was their like socialization. And it was very strict, I couldn't watch SpongeBob growing up, couldn't watch Harry Potter, like things like that. So the things that I was told as like a 10, 12, 13, 14-year-old about like male and female bodies and how things happen.
Yeah.
I wasn't told that. So it's cool though, because we can see like, she's like, hey, this is how I was raised as a girl and I want to do it differently. So I guess it is cool that way. And then I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't want her to be a teenager. Yeah, just like
I know. Yeah, you got to enjoy the moments. Enjoy the moments while they're here.
Sure.
Yeah, it's wild. So yeah, I don't know. I've always thought like I would rather her learn from me and her mom rather than learn at school because I think I learned most of those things through school as well.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So who is someone that has changed your life that does not know it?
Someone that has changed. I mean, honestly, I don't know if my big brother will. I don't know if I've ever told him like how he's changed my life. But truly, he is what got me into fitness. I hung out with him in Chicago and just saw the kind of person he was. And I was like, okay, I can be like that too. So that started me into fitness. And that's when I picked up a dumbbell at a young age of like 13. And I'm not the biggest guy, but, I kept working out and saw, changes in my body and grew more confident, and just saw what I was physically capable of. And then that even advanced into when I did my military training. I knew what I have done physically, but that took me to a whole nother level of what I was capable and what I knew I was capable of physically and mentally. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd be pursuing my passion as a personal trainer if it weren't for him. So that him for sure. The only other person I know doesn't know they changed my life is his name's Nate Mitchell, and his family's own the Culvers in like the Missouri and Kansas area, and he was my hiring manager when I started at Culver's at 16. I worked there for 2 years. And then after COVID, I went back just for stability and he hired me back on. But that's where I met my wife, was at Culver's. So if it weren't for me going back and getting hired back on by him, I wouldn't have met my wife.
Dude, isn't it funny to play back all those things? Like,
oh yeah,
looking at like if I wouldn't have sent that text or if I wouldn't have been in that place at that time, or if I like, it can get mind blowing thinking about that stuff.
That's why like I would be happy getting out of the military sooner because I want my time to be up. But people ask me like, if you go back, like, would you not join? And I always say like, no, I wouldn't change a thing because as cheesy as it sounds, it's like the butterfly effect. If I change one thing back then, it's like, I don't know if I'd be right here. It's like, I don't even know if we'd be talking. Now, I don't know if I'd work at Nike since I wasn't passionate about fitness in some aspect. So yeah, it's crazy.
Dude, agreed. Yeah. And dude, I wouldn't have worked at Nike either if my mom didn't say, hey, you should probably work at the Branson Nike, because it opened up. And she's like, I worked there for 2 years. You should do it. I'm just like, nah, I'll just keep doing construction work. And then she finally talked me into it. And then just one day I just showed up like, yeah, I guess I'll work with you guys. Cause I was actually working out with the store manager at the time. And then, yeah, that was it.
That's
just
funny.
Hired on. So it could have been very well been in the same boat if I just would have said like, nah, I'll just keep construction work. And I don't have any idea how it would have ended up. But I always wonder too of like, would we have still found where we are now at some point? Maybe not now, but I always wonder if like for instance, your wife, like I wonder if you would have met her somewhere else at some point. Like,
dude,
I'm always curious.
I don't think I've ever thought about that. And I love that you said that, because that is super cool. Like whether it's now or whether it would have been earlier or later, like that's, I don't know why, but I haven't thought about that. That's really cool.
Yeah. Fascinating. I always think about weird stuff like that, because I'm always I'm always curious, because I almost wonder if how much stuff is like almost predestined versus how much is just things just happen. And I don't know, it's just always fascinating to me thinking of like, what if no matter what we did or no matter what we changed, what if we always ended up almost in the same place?
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't know. Deep thoughts. Okay. Cool. So now what's a skill or talent that you'd like to share with the audience here?
Oh my goodness. A skill or talent. I mean, when I was 6, I used to be able to burp the alphabet.
Me too.
I don't know if I have any skills or talents, man.
What? No, you got skills or talents. You do too.
My wife would say I'm very skilled at carrying our 65-inch TV all by myself.
That's still not everybody can do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I can solve one side of a Rubik's Cube in like 10 seconds or less.
Sweet.
So if I have a Rubik's Cube and you tell me your favorite color, I'll get it for you.
Really good. Hey, we'll put that to the test when we go out for lunch.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'll bring my Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, sweet. No, that's awesome. So, okay. So Rubik's Cube, and I'm sure you have skills or talents. I'm sure you're just being modest. I know some of us can't think of it on the spot sometimes, but I'm sure you got some stuff.
I'm sure there's something there. I might have to ask my wife.
Yeah. So fun fact. So just to go back to what you were saying about burping the alphabet. So I used to do stuff like that all the time. I used to try to be like the best burper possible. That's something I let go of a long time ago. But I realized it was an issue when so check this out. So when I first started at Nike, I was working only in the stockroom. And dude, I loved making noise and just causing a ruckus just for fun. So I would be like screaming, singing at the top of my lungs, whatever, burping. And at one point I was like, dude, let's see how loud of a burp we could possibly do. And I used to just do that all the time. And what happened is I went out and just ran into one of my guys that worked with at Nike, and he's with a friend, and he's like, hey, dude. He's like, what's up, Rick? He's like, hey, what's up? Dude, you should show this guy how you burp. And then I realized at that point, like, I should stop, because I'm going to be known as the burping guy.
That's hilarious, dude.
I'm done. I'm out. So after that point, I was like, yeah, exactly. That's not an identity I want to carry. But
dude, you could have went viral.
Dude, but yeah, it used to be a skill. It was insane. But yeah, I have not done that in a long time. So
maybe at the end of the podcast,
dude, we could have a burp off.
Oh no, I'll puke. You'll win.
Okay. Okay. So, what is something that you're learning about currently that you'd like to teach us?
I mean, I'm just learning about nutrition right now, and kind of like one thing that I thought really struck out to me is, like let's say you have a diet, and let's say one day you just have a bad meal, it's a rough day, or you're busy and you eat fast food, or you're just having emotions and you eat like a pint of chocolate ice cream. It's a lot of people the next day will be like, yesterday was a bad day, today's just gonna be bad too. And they'll just kind of stay rolling with it and just stay in the groove of that. But the analogy that I heard that really I thought was cool was like, like how often do you brush your teeth at night? Like, let's say you brush your teeth every night. I'm a morning person. But let's say you brush your teeth every night and then one night you forget. Are you gonna make an emergency appointment to the dentist and go in and get new teeth? Are you never gonna brush your teeth again because you missed one? It's like, no, you're probably just gonna brush your teeth that next morning and not freak out, and it's not gonna ruin your day, and you're just gonna keep living. And I like that because there are times where like me, even my wife, or just people I know will eat something that's not necessarily healthy for them and beat themselves up, man. Like, we are our biggest critic, and they'll beat themselves up and they won't pull themselves back up. So, well, they'll beat themselves down and then won't pull themselves back up. So then they just kind of stay in that rut, and they feel like they necessarily like don't deserve to keep eating healthy or to keep going to the gym because they messed up once. And I just like that analogy. It's like, it's not the end of the world. We're going to keep living.
Yeah. Yeah, people are hard on themselves. It's funny, we always are our worst critics, always. And one thing that there's a few things I want to talk about, but it's that. So I'm doing this journaling course. So I've done this journaling course with people before, but what I felt was really fascinating about this journaling course, and they talk about this in lots of aspects, is when you beat yourself up, or so say for instance, you're venting, you're writing down in your journal, like, this is what's happening, and you're struggling with all this stuff. What you want to do in order to help, especially in a situation like that, is you want to, because it doesn't necessarily help your mood to vent, but what does help is make sense of the problem and the issue. So they said, what if, instead of beating yourself up about it, what if you talk to yourself like you would your best friend or a child? Because think about it. Like, Rob, if I was talking to you, right, I would probably be much kinder than how I would be to myself. And I think most people would say that, right? And when you do that, it's funny how much more compassion that you have and how you can actually maneuver forward, because you're not beating yourself up about it. Because you wouldn't treat somebody else like that. So why would you treat yourself like that?
You beat me to it, Ricky. I was literally going to say, it's like, we're beating ourselves up mentally. And it's like, if that was my friend, it's like, I wouldn't be your friend. It's like, I wouldn't be my friend. And that's sad. So yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. Is like, talk to yourself like how you talk to your friend.
Yeah, it's wild. So there's that, and then it also reminded me of the book Atomic Habits. Have you read that?
Dude, funny enough, I got it like a week or two ago, and that's my goal for this week, is to read 50 pages.
Nice,
but yeah, so I haven't started yet, but yeah, that's my goal. So ask me in a week, and I'll tell you I'm 50 pages deep.
Sweet. Okay, so I'm not going to spoil anything, but one thing that he talked about in that book that goes along with what you said is, if you miss one day, it's fine, but don't miss two. Is basically the concept. Because when you're building habits, like if you miss something here and there, like you don't eat well or something, you can get back on track and still be in the same routine. But once you start missing, like, repeatedly, that's when it becomes an issue. And I can speak to this. Like, I was thinking, so I told you offline here that I got sick a couple weeks back. I'm like never sick. So I got sick and I didn't go to the gym. So what happened is, it had been like 4 or 5 days and I hadn't been to the gym. And what's crazy is your mind does wild things when you haven't done something for a while. So they literally, like, I went from being like, it becoming this thing of like, I just go to the gym, where one of the mornings I was almost like, I just want to sleep in. I just want to do this. And so just like, it gets easier to tell yourself that.
Yeah.
And, I almost lost the morning battle, but I made myself go to the gym, and then I felt much better. But I get that. Like, it's easy. Like, if you keep missing it, like that's the issue. Like, you miss one day, just hop back on and you'll be right there. Yeah. So then currently, what are you doing for fun?
For fun. Yeah. So you could say it's for fun, but I love to go to the gym and get a nice lift in. It's therapeutic for sure, and it just feels good to kind of exhaust yourself a bit. Other than that, man, I mean, I doom scroll on Instagram. I love like I said, my TV shows and movies. But something that I'm trying to do now, and it's something that we talked about at work, is, self-care isn't just, taking a shower, doing a face mask, like cleaning up your beard, going to the gym. Self-care is also like adding things into your life that cause excitement and joy. So that's something I was talking to my wife about today. That's something I'm gonna do in the next week, is plan something that's more exciting and just something that really brings me joy. So I don't know, maybe it's going to be like indoor skydiving, or maybe I'll play some pickleball outside with some friends, but it might be cold. Actually, it's going to get pretty cold. But just planning something that I just gets me out of my normal routine of just work, chores, gym. You know what I mean? Something that kind of mixes it up and allows me some more excitement.
Dude, it's funny because that's a hard thing to do for some people. And I'll say that for myself too. Because I actually get joy from work. I get joy from going to the gym. I get joy from certain things. But what's funny is like I've been in mental spaces sometimes where if you were to ask me like, you should do something fun, I was like, well, I don't feel like anything's fun right now.
Yep.
And it's like, and that's such a wild mental space to be in, but like it's there. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of like a block or something, but
yeah, I'm telling myself it's just the, like the holiday blues that has me feeling like that.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's totally normal. It's actually normal to feel that way. Which is interesting. So this is kind of go off a little tangent. So I was listening to this podcast, actually a couple days ago where they're talking about, dopamine.
Yeah.
Super fascinating. So they were talking about how normally, you know, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I'll educate you. And if you know it, it's okay. But they talked about how important it is for our bodies, because what they do is our bodies are always trying to get to homeostasis. So they say what happens is a lot of times, especially in this world now, we pursue a lot of pleasure. So we pursue a lot of like, you know, whether it be doom scrolling or whether it be like this stuff that kind of like excites us or gets us excited. The problem is because our bodies are going to homeostasis. When you have a really big high, you're also going to have a really big low to help get you back to the same space. So the more highs you have, the more lows you're going to have, and you're going to want to not have that. So that's why addiction is so prevalent too, is because people get addicted to those things and they're like, I need that high, I need that high, I need that high. But what's crazy is
baseline, I feel like it just keeps going higher.
It does. Yeah, it does. That's why like, yeah, when you do something exciting, you got to do something a little bit more exciting next time, or a little bit more exciting the time after that. Otherwise, because you're not getting that hit anymore. And it's because we like fear the pain of stuff. When they say the pain and pleasure center is in the exact same spot. So it's actually completely normal, but we tend to, I don't know if it's a society thing, but we think that things need to feel good or something's wrong.
Yeah.
When actually they say that like, actually it's really normal to have bad moments. And if you've had a really big high, expect maybe a big low. And when you think about that, it's like, wow, that feels so much better. Like, hey, guess what? Today's going to be a crummy day. That's okay. You know, like imagine that perspective rather than like, dude, I got to avoid this. Like, I hate feeling like this, right? I'm gonna go do something. And it's easy to distract yourself. I'm guilty too of like hopping on YouTube and just watching YouTube videos or being on my phone and being like, and I try to catch myself, but I don't always do it. Like, it's just like, okay, Ricky, what are you trying not to feel right now?
Yeah.
You know, and it's literally me trying to avoid a feeling of some type. I'm trying to avoid like maybe feelings of loneliness or feelings of whatever. And it's like, you know what? Right. You know, if I can put it down and realize that in the moment, then I had the ability to do something different. Cause you waste time.
Yeah, dude, you have to have some pretty good self-awareness, to be, you know, like in the middle of something like that. And then to be like, what am I avoiding? Like, what feelings, you know, am I trying to suppress by just mindlessly scrolling or something, or giving myself that instant pleasure? That's cool.
It's wild. I'll send you that offline, that podcast if you're curious.
Sweet.
But it was, dude, it was super fascinating. But it's just wild that we do that. But I can't remember if I was going to go to something else because I know that was a side tangent. I feel like I had another direction, but that's okay. We'll maybe get there. But yeah. So the next question is, because we've covered quite a few bases, you know, in this podcast so far. Now, from the time you were born to now, if you were to write a book or have a story, what would you call that book?
You know, I read this question and this was one that I was like, I don't know, but one thing that I was thinking is like, if I had to write a book, I'd pay someone to write the book for me and then I would direct the movie. But, the name of the book would be just figuring it out, I guess. Yeah. It would just be about me just figuring life out day by day. Not really day by day, but you know, overcoming what life throws at you.
So figuring it out, is that what you want to settle on?
Figuring it out. That's what it would be. Figuring it out.
Figuring it out. I love it. It's actually really close to my sister's. So my sister had a podcast episode, and hers was "Figuring Out Life." I think was her story title. So that's fascinating.
Cool. Yeah.
Fascinating. Okay, cool. Okay. So let's see. So we have a couple questions left, but but this is kind of the time that I like a podcast where you get to share with the audience whatever you want. So if it's like trying to promote your business, if it's sharing your social, and whatever you want, this is like your 15 minutes of fame. If you need 15 minutes, whatever you need.
Sweet. I'm a personal trainer at MaxFit KC, and it is located near Parkville, Missouri. You can find me on Instagram at _Rob the Builder with 2 R's at the end. And yeah, I would love to grow my following this year. So I'm really, really focusing on that. Yeah, I post a lot of fitness stuff and then just family and fun. And that's
Love
my
it.
15
Anything
minutes.
else?
No, that's
it?
great.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was so fast. Dude, I love that name, Rob the Builder. It's so clever.
I appreciate that. I
And I'm
wanted it.
surprised it's not taken.
Well, the just Rob the Builder, like that's taken. So I had to
Oh,
put the
okay.
underscore at _ Rob the Builder with another R at the end. Yeah,
Got it. Okay, I gotcha. Clever. Very clever.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Okay, so this is our last question. So this is how I like to end these episodes, is I like to have the previous guest, create a question for you, and then you're going to create a question for the next guest. So this is one that you didn't study, that you have no idea about, so we're going to put you on a whim here.
Okay.
So this one... Okay, here we go. So the question is, if you could be any person from history, who would you be?
I think it'd be cool to be Barack Obama because he kind of gets to see Donald Trump and Joe Biden and both of their personalities. So I was going to say like, oh, I'd love to be like Donald Trump and like kind of see what goes to his head. And I was like, but would it be more fun to be like Joe Biden and see what goes to his head? And I was like, no, let me just be Barack Obama so I can kind of see both of them. So I think that'd be cool.
So that's like, this is funny because like, that's not an answer I would have ever expected, but that's also the most Rob answer I think I've ever heard too.
Yeah.
That's so good. Okay. Sweet. Okay. So now what question do you want to leave for the next guest?
What question would I like to leave for the next guest? My question is, if you had one wish from a genie, what would your wish be? And it can't be for more wishes. Or another genie.
So you put a lot of thought in this. I like all the loopholes. We can't ask for another genie or more wishes.
Yeah, they can't cheat around it. They get one wish, and it's a regular wish.
Okay, good. I like that. It's funny, just one wish, not 3 wishes, huh?
Yeah,
Man.
That way they have to think a bit more.
Okay. So what would you wish for?
Oh, gosh. I mean, easy answer is like $1 billion. Cause
Yeah. You
like,
go the money route.
Yeah.
$1 billion, I can do whatever I want. Got it.
As long as there's like no strings attached where like, now I'm a wanted fugitive because I robbed a bank or something. But, yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want $1 billion? Could do a lot with that. Could help a lot of people. Yeah. That's how I'm going with $1 billion.
Okay. Fair. Love it. Sweet. Well, I'm not going to answer this question yet. So I don't know if you've paid attention to the podcast too much, but I always do, as the podcast progress, I do check-ins. So we had a 10 episode and a 20 episode. So I believe this episode's going to be 28. So it'll be on the 30 episode. So when I go to that one, I answer all the guest questions. So I have a special episode for that. So I'll save it for that. And you can tune in and see what I would wish for if I had a genie.
I can't wait, man.
Sweet. Okay, cool. So that was it. So anything else that you want to share?
Yeah. Something that just came to mind is you said that you liked the name Rob the Builder, and it made me think, you remember Travis Dooley from Nike?
Yeah.
He called me Broccoli Rob, and I didn't know that Broccoli Rob was an actual like vegetable. I thought he was just calling me Broccoli Rob for some reason. And I was bald, but didn't even have like broccoli hair or anything. But yeah, no. So I just thought that was something funny. I thought I'd tell you.
Broccoli Rob. Dude, what is Broccoli Rob? I don't know what that is either.
It's the Rob is spelled like RHAAB. It's I think it's it's like I think it's like a mix between broccoli and celery, but yeah, it's probably completely wrong.
Did you know broccoli is man-made?
Yeah. It's grown
Dude,
up.
I found that out the other day, and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's not something that actually comes naturally. They had to breed two different vegetables together to make broccoli.
Oh,
I didn't know
that's
that.
crazy. That's wild.
Yeah, I saw this on a little thing, and I was like, dude, I gotta fact check this. So I started Googling, and it was like, oh, that's weird. What a weird random fun fact.
Well, it's like, why? How many other fruits or vegetables did they like crossbreed to get them? And then it's like, why'd they stop? I don't know. That's that's
Dude,
funny.
well, that's the thing. Like, I was looking it up. Like, most of the stuff that we see, the vegetables and fruits we see today they're all man-made. They're all bred differently because they're not like they used to look.
Yeah,
Like, if
that
you've ever,
makes sense.
like, yeah, like if you've ever seen, like, have you ever seen an old school watermelon? Like we've genetically modified them to where it's like the big red heart in it. Old watermelons had like a little tiny pit in it, and most of it was not really edible other than that. It's wild.
Dang. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I don't know how they do it. It's all scientific and stuff, but I don't know. It also makes me curious about how good fruits and vegetables actually are for you.
Yeah, I saw something that, and I can't remember what the timeline was, but it was something like potatoes are stored for like 12 months or something before they even get to your grocery store. And I saw this video that was showing like the different fruits and vegetables and how long they're stored before it even hits the shelves. And a lot of it was a long time. I was pretty surprised. I didn't research it though, so I don't know for facts.
Yeah. Oh, I looked that up today too. Potatoes are one of those that have been altered. It's been altered from how they used to be.
Crazy.
So,
and we're all eating it.
It is wild. We are all eating it. Yeah. It always just makes me question it though now because everybody's like, it's natural. And it's like, it kind of is, but it's kind of not.
It's
actually.
organic.
It's kind of,
yeah.
Exactly. Well, Rob, thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm so glad we got to chat because, dude, it's been too long. So, we do need to connect. We do need to connect for sure because I'd love to do that. And, this was where I was going to go with that one question. Okay. So it was the fun question. I can't believe I almost forgot about it. Dude, I do game nights once a month. Do you want to come over for a game night?
Dude, heck yeah. What, like board games and stuff?
Dude, we play, yes,
or like
play all
games?
types of board games. No, not video games. We play board games. So we play, we got quite a few. And a lot of times we'll play like miniatures, war games. We'll play all this like fun stuff. So, dude, it'll be right up your alley, I'm sure.
Yeah, that'd be fun. You ever played Catan?
No, but that's the follow-up question everybody says after I say what I say. Every time there was like, you played Catan? And I'm always like, no.
That's funny. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Okay, yeah. Well, dude, we'll I'll let you know when we do it next. So we were doing it here, but his meeting, I know the last time we went to Lake of the Ozarks, but if we do it here, we always have more the merrier. We just come over and what we do is we time it on Saturdays. So what we do is we'll do game night and then we'll go watch the UFC fights at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, dude, that's sick. Yeah, no,
so it's a whole
definitely
thing.
Let me know. I'd love to join in.
So if you're looking for fun, that's my fun. So we'll do that.
That sounds great, man. Definitely let me know.
Okay, sweet. Well, again, it's been awesome, Rob. But I'm sure we'll catch up soon. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, I'll see you later.
See ya.